the senator from South Carolina.
Thank you. Thank you. If I could, I'd like to speak about the pending business before the Senate. Of all the things we will do, Mr. President, probably in our political lifetime, I can't think of anything more important than getting the Iran nuclear ambitions right. I stand in two camps. I would love a good deal, and a bad deal would be a nightmare. What's a bad deal? A bad deal would be one that would result in a North Korean outcome where you lock in a capacity in the hands of the Iranians to be monitored by the international community, and one day they break out and you wake up and they've got a bomb. A bad deal would be too much capacity in the hands of the Iranians that would spook the Sunni Arabs to want to go buy a bomb of their own. I cannot tell you the consequences to the world and our nation if you have a nuclear arms race in the Mideast. That's what a bad deal leads to. A good deal allows us to wind down a hotly contested dispute between Iran and the world over the last 20 years without firing a shot. A good deal would be allowing the Iranians a peaceful nuclear power program, what they claim they want, with no real capability in a year or any time to make a bomb. If all they want is a peaceful nuclear power program, I do not object. I do object to the capability to enrich uranium in a fashion that one day they could break out like North Korea did, because I don't trust the Iranians. So to Senator Cardin and Senator Corker, you've navigated this pretty darn well. We've got a Democratic president who I think wants a deal way too badly, and we got a Congress who I think wants to have a say. We created the congressional sanctions, and we should have a say as to whether or not they're waived based on the deal, the quality of the deal that they may negotiate with the Iranians, the P5+1. Since we created the sanctions, I don't think it's unfair to this president or any other president to say you need our vote, you need a debate to occur before we'll agree to do that. Now, is it a treaty? I don't think so. I would love it to be a treaty, but it's not. The one thing I don't want to do in the process of dealing with a very dangerous situation in the Mideast is to turn the rules upside down here because I like a particular outcome. Senator Johnson sincerely believes it's a treaty. I do not doubt his motivations at all, but I've come to conclude, and right or wrong, that it doesn't meet the definition laid out by the Supreme Court and precedents of the past. When we did a deal with North Korea, it wasn't a treaty. Maybe it should have been, but it wasn't. So I don't think we're going to be able to change the rules just because we've got a very dangerous moment in American history, world history, and a president some of us don't trust or like. Condoleezza Rice says it's not a treaty. I don't think she would have said that if there had been any doubt in her mind. I've had discussions with other Republicans who've served in prior administrations, and they have come to the same conclusion. So we had a vote, which was a good thing, and the concept of it becoming a treaty was voted down. The debate was worthy of the Senate, and I applaud all those who were involved. There are aspects of amendments that are pending that I would embrace in a New York minute. But I believe that some of these amendments, no matter how much I support the concept, would break apart a bipartisan coalition that's taken a year to form. To Senator Cardin and Corker, you've struck a balance that I think makes sense to me. A Democratic minority, I don't believe is going to turn all the power regarding this deal surviving or being struck down to the Republican majority. If I were in your shoes, I would not do that. And to my colleagues who ask that the Democratic minority with a Democratic president cede the entire process to us as Republicans, that's probably a bridge too far. I don't think a Republican president would like that outcome. I don't think a Republican minority would turn over to a Democratic majority the ability to act unilaterally on something of this consequence. So what has Senator Corker and Cardin been able to do? They brought the bill to the floor without a filibuster, allowing debate and hopefully more votes. To my Democratic colleagues, don't shut my Republican friends out. They all have a say, and I will vote with you against some of the amendments that I like, but I just think would break the deal apart. Let's get the Senate back in business in a reasonable fashion. What I would say is that the construct of this bill makes perfect sense to me. You need 60 votes to disapprove the deal. 60 votes is required of any major action in the Senate. That's been the historical precedent of the Senate. So the Democrats are not asking us to do something that hasn't been around as a concept for a long time. What does it require? It requires the 54 Republicans, if we're together, to convince 6 Democrats this is a bad deal. I think if it truly is a bad deal, our Democratic colleagues, for the good of the nation and the consequences of a bad deal are understood by them, would join with us to say, this is not what we want, Mr. President, try harder. Rejecting a bad deal doesn't mean that we want to end diplomatic efforts. It means that we believe the deal in question fell short. So to Senator Corker, you did a good job, because I don't think anybody in your shoes could have convinced the Democratic Party to basically deal themselves out. To Senator Cardin, you made it possible, along with Senator Menendez, for us to have this debate and create, I think, a standard of disapproval consistent with the traditions of the Senate. They may never be a deal, but if there is one, it has to come back here. And every American will get to hear the contents of the deal, why some think it's good and why others think it's bad, and you will not have to wonder what we're doing regarding the Iranians. If the Republican Party cannot convince enough members of the Democratic Party that it is a bad deal, then we will be disappointed, but that is democracy. Israel is very worried about the framework. The Sunni Arab states are very worried about the framework. It's not a final deal yet. 3 things I think have to be there for me to be on board. Anytime, anywhere inspections in Iran by international organizations of our choosing, including military facilities. No upfront signing bonus in terms of money until the Iranians comply with the initial phases of the deal, because they'll take the cash and put it in their war machine. And whenever the inspection regime is supposed to terminate, 10 years, 15 years, whatever date you pick, at that moment, the then existing president, whoever he or she may be, has to certify that Iran is no longer a state sponsor of terrorism, because you would not want to end the inspection regime if they were still involved in state terrorist activity. So the 2 leaders on this bill, from my point of view, have crafted a pretty good piece of legislation. People dislike it for different reasons, which means it's probably the balance we need. And I can't think of a better way to do this. And to those who think they have a better way, the only thing I would tell you, you better get some Democrats to agree with you. Because if you can't, it's just all talk. And what Bob Corker and Ben Cardin have been able to do is they've given the Senate a voice that we wouldn't have otherwise. They've given the American people a chance to understand the deal better than any opportunity I know of. And they've given us the power that every member of the House and Senate should want in this regard. A chance to have a say and to be recorded in history. The outcome may not please you, but this is the best process I could think of, given the way the Senate works and the way democracy works, which means both parties are going to require a say in something this important. So well done. I look forward to voting for this bill and any amendment you want to bring to the floor. I will vote for it if I think it is a good amendment that will not deconstruct the deal or unravel the deal. I will vote against the amendment if I think it will break the deal apart, even though I'm sympathetic to it, because my goal is to get this right, to make sure that any final deal with the Iranians is explained to the American people through the House and the Senate debate that can only happen if this bill becomes law. With that, I yield.
Mr. President.
The senator from Tennessee.
I just want to say, while the senator from South Carolina is on the floor, that look, at the end of the day, this bill is the Graham vision. I mean, the fact is, this is Graham Corker, Corker Graham. It's evolved so that we could have the kind of support that we need to pass this into law. But I want to thank Senator Graham for his pushing to make sure that we got to this point. There's no question. And look, you've been on this for months. You have pursued this. You have sold this publicly. You've worked with us as we've caused this to evolve to get the number of votes that we may get to actually cause this to become law. I don't know of anybody in our caucus or anybody in the Senate that has more of a foreign policy, national security background. No one. And I want to thank you for your efforts to ensure that we do everything we can to make sure we have a voice in this agreement that may happen on June 30th or a few days thereafter. So I thank you. We wouldn't be here without your continual pushing, and I'll yield the floor to Senator Carter.